I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
No. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Right.
Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
Anyone claiming that America's economy is in decline is peddling fiction.
I've abandoned free market principles to save the free market system.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Raising the debt ceilings does not increase our debt. It does not somehow promote profligacy.
I know words. I have the best words. Nobody knows the system better than me, which is why I alone can fix it.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Peddling Fiction Podcast. I am your host, the voice and soul of so-called fiction, Johnny Profita. And back with me after a long Thanksgiving holiday break, looks like he's freezing his ass off over there in Hillbilly Land, is Justin Hillbilly Boy Campbell. What happened to that heater you had put in?
Well, it's kind of loud. I don't know if you could hear it when I had it running when we were talking pre-show, but whether or not you could hear it, it makes it hard for me to hear you. It's
okay.
It will heat it up quick in here. Like I actually only keep it set at about half to a quarter of the like it. So it, it's got the low setting and the high setting. I have it set between half and a quarter, because if I turn it to high, it'll straight smoke me out of here. Like I'll be sweating, having to take clothes off. I can't turn it up over halfway, or it like really boils it in here. But also, it'll start to get cool in here pretty quick. So I can maintain a decent temperature, but not with keeping it turned off for an extended period of time. And we're having a heat wave today. It's up to 27. Like yesterday it was like 11 degrees. I think it got up to 18 in the afternoon. So like today is a rather balmy 27. Tomorrow it's even supposed to break 40.
Really? That's nice. That's actually really nice for December. I think it's like 80 degrees here, but my feet are cold.
Oh, you poor thing.
Not in the morning. I mean, the mornings are probably like 70 something. Yeah, with a stiff ocean breeze coming through.
Stephanie and I went to Bloomington for the IU Purdue game on Saturday, and it was 25 degrees and snowing, like just not like driving snow, but flurries throughout the entire game. It was nice. It was perfect football weather. Like in the stadium and it was a sold out crowd because it's a big rivalry game. Like in the stadium, sitting next to everybody else and like in there, it was pretty nice. I got up and like went out to the like concession area to take a piss and get a beer, and it was cold out there. Like I was ready to get back in the stadium, get back around all the other people and get warmed back up.
Yeah, when it's actually snowing, it's usually a little warmer. It's kind of warm while it snows, and then after the snow's gone, the temperature tends to drop a little bit. But yeah, that does sound like good football weather. I do not miss being cold. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that right now. Did you have a nice Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it was good. Nothing too exciting. We went 8 and then lounged around and watched football.
Yeah, how about them Bears? How about them Bears?
They had a chance. I thought for sure, like, all right, we're gonna like at the very least they're gonna kick a field goal and put it into overtime. And then they just didn't, and it was amazing.
You would think, yep. Only the Bears could come up with a way to lose like that.
I don't know. The Raiders did a pretty equally phenomenal job of fucking up their chance to win against the Chiefs on Friday. Like all they had to do was run a play and then kick the field goal and they win the game. And the center just like snaps the ball while the quarterback's not ready, hits the quarterback dead in the chest. Chiefs recover the ball and game over. Like all you had to do was just snap the ball and run a play and then kick the field goal. Like run the clock down and kick the field goal. And instead they
in shotgun?
Yeah. Snapped it straight into the quarterback's chest. Fumble
in shotgun for that.
Chiefs recover, game over. Like it was some impressively bad finishes to a couple of those games.
Yeah, I was looking at I was like, man, it's tough to win. I think what Detroit was going for 10 in a row. And the Bears were going to lose like 6 in a row or something. I was like, it's kind of hard to do that on both sides. The Bears might come pull through with the upset. And I was like, God, dude, I wonder what they were. I wonder what the betting odds on that were, because I probably could have made a pretty penny. I was thinking that when they were marching down the field, and then there was all these penalties going back and forth. I was like, oh shit, dude, I probably should have fucking.
Just statistically speaking, one of them is going to win a game and the other one is going to lose a game. Like, oh well, the Lions play the Packers this week, so maybe the game that the Lions lose will be this week, and then I'll be happy. Yeah. I don't think the Bears are going to pick up their win this week, but you never know.
No, dude, the Bears, like I said at the beginning of this season and last season and all the other seasons when people get high on the Bears, like, dude, they're at 7-9, 9-17. Always has been, always will be. One exception was like 2005, 03 to 05, something like that.
Caleb Williams at least showed some promise. Like he might be gay, but he's a half-ass decent quarterback most of the time. Like outside of the very last play of the game where he took way too long getting the line and then he held the ball for way too long and ruined their chance of being able to like finish the game strong. Like outside of that, he was really good for the entirety of the second half. Like he has had some,
it was like a
big moment where he's been good.
Yeah, he has flashes of it. But then he misses like wide open shit where you're just like, dude, come on, man. You can't be missing a fucking check down, like a 5-yard check down or something. There was actually a play that Romo pointed out when they were on that, what should have been at least a game tying drive, where he missed a slant to DJ Moore. And there was just like, it was wide open. All the field ahead of him. He's like, dude, that probably would have been a touchdown if he hit it. And he just missed it. I mean, it's tough to judge him because he has no offensive line. He's 90% of the time he's running for his fucking life. So it's like, yeah, I can't blame him if he's not making a lot of plays under that kind of pressure, but he does miss some throws that I think any NFL starting QB should be making, but he made some pretty impressive plays as well. So yeah, we'll see. He's a young kid.
Just don't give me hope is what you're always saying, right?
Yeah. I'll be shocked if the Bears make the playoffs and maybe even win a Super Bowl with a quarterback that paints his nails. I would not bet on that. But anyway. Oh shit. So the only real story, I think it's been a pretty slow news, cycle around the holidays, except for the fact that in addition to pardoning a couple of turkeys, Joe Biden did the unthinkable and pardoned Hunter Biden. And Hunter Biden, for those of you who have not been following his shenanigans, had been charged with tax evasion and a gun charge. He lied on the federal firearm form about drug use or something like that when he was applying for a firearm. So he was facing sentencing for those. This was after. So he got like a sweetheart fucking deal that was so ridiculous that the judge like wouldn't accept it. I don't know how often that happens, but it can't be that fucking often when when the attorneys come to a fucking an agreement, a deal has been struck, and it comes before the judge, and the judge is like, dude, this is fucking ridiculous. I get that he's the president's son and we have to throw him a bone because despite what everybody says, people are above the law and it's one big fucking club and you're not in it. But this goes way too far. I cannot in good conscience sign off on this deal.
Wait, what do you mean people are above the law? I have it on several good sources that nobody is above the law, right?
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one 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 is above the law.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Yeah, everybody saying that is above the law, essentially. Like each one of those people would be considered above the law in most cases. Like they would have to be caught like on camera doing something highly illegal and like in an election year or something for the fucking laws to be applied to them somewhat equally. It's so fucking ridiculous, dude, that people believe anything that comes out of a politician's mouth ever. But Joe Biden goes around. So yeah, Hunter Biden, the deal blows up in Hunter Biden's face. He gets convicted. He's facing sentencing in like 2 weeks or something. And Joe Biden was out there. Granted, this was before they had run him out of office. This is before the coup. Saying, "Oh yeah, no, I'm not gonna pardon Hunter Biden. Of course not, because I believe in the rule of law, and that's what separates us from the Republicans. You know, Democrats they're staking out this territory about how they have the moral high ground here because." Oh, it's not an unfair judicial system. It's not the judicial system isn't weaponized against Donald Trump. Look, they're going after Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's not going to pardon him because he said so. And they took that like it was fucking gospel, as if a politician, dude, talk is so goddamn cheap. You can say anything.
Well, talking about the weaponizing the justice system and all of that. This is the statement from Joe Biden before he issued, or the statement that he released when he issued the pardon. He says, "Today I signed a pardon for my son Hunter. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision making, and I kept my word, even as I've watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Without aggravating factors like use in a crime, multiple purchases, or buying a weapon as a straw purchaser, people are almost never brought to trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form. Those who were late paying their taxes because of serious addictions, but paid them back subsequently with interest and penalties, are typically given non-criminal resolutions. It is clear that Hunter was treated different. The charges in this case came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them to attack me and oppose my election. And then a carefully negotiated plea deal agreed to by the Justice Department unraveled in the courtroom, with a number of my political opponents in Congress taking credit for bringing political pressure on the process. Had the plea deal held, it would have been a fair, reasonable resolution of Hunter's case. No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son, and that is wrong. There has been an effort to break Hunter, who has been 5.5 years sober. That's laughable. Even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecution. In trying to break Hunter, they've tried to break me, and there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough. For my entire career, I have followed a simple principle: just tell the American people the truth. They'll be fair-minded. Here's the truth. I believe in the justice system, but as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process, and it led to a miscarriage of justice. And once I made this decision this weekend, there was no sense in delaying it further. I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision."
Okay. God, there's so much there. How can you simultaneously say you believe in the justice system after 3 paragraphs of saying the justice system is unfairly going after my son? for things that they would never charge anybody else. They just charged him because he's my son. Well, this is your DOJ, by the way. This is not Donald Trump's doing, nothing like that. And by the way, these were...
How about the irony of talking about political opponents, going after political opponents, talking about charges that would never have been brought up in any other court if it wasn't for the fact that this is a political opponent. Like
where have we seen that before? Has anybody been like screaming that to the heavens for the last couple of years? 4 fucking years of this. They've been going after Donald Trump in a much more aggressive way. Dude, the only reason they charged Hunter Biden these were like, they were throwing him a bone. Of all the fucking shit on that laptop, this is what he gets charged with. There's fucking child porn. There's pedophilia. There's him fucking snorting coke off of hookers' asses. Dude, there's all the Burisma shit. This is like, dude, they brought these charges like the weakest of all the fucking charges because they're like, okay, like we can't just ignore everything this guy has done. So charge him with this bullshit that nobody really cares about, and he'll probably get a sweetheart deal. And they just pushed that envelope a little too far. It's just so ridiculous, dude. They could have charged him with so many more egregious things that he's fucking done. But they did this. They went through the fucking motions and they charged him with bullshit. And by the way, if Joe Biden had just pardoned him for the gun charge and the tax evasion, I'd be like, oh yeah, of course. Like, dude, it's your son. These are bullshit charges. I don't think anybody should have been charged for either of those things. I don't consider them crimes. So yes, pardon him for those. But what did he do, Justin? What did he do?
I would say, speaking of Burisma and all of that, he didn't just pardon him for the 2 counts that he was actually charged for. He pardoned him for everything. So to all to whom these presents shall come, greeting. Be it known that this day I, Joseph R. Biden Jr., President of the United States, pursuant to my powers under Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 of the Constitution, have granted unto Robert Hunter Biden a full and unconditional pardon for those offenses against the United States which he has committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024, including but not limited to all offenses charged or prosecuted, including any that have resulted in convictions by Special Counsel David C. Weiss in docket number 1-23-CR00061MN in the United States District Court of the District of Delaware, and docket number 2-23-CR0005599 MCS1 in the United States District Court for the Central District of California. In testimony whereof I have hereunto signed my name and caused the pardon to be recorded with the Department of Justice. Yeah. Everything from January 1st, 2014 until December 1st, 2024.
Yes, that he may or may, like things that he's been accused of, but also anything, any federal crime. Dude, can you even fucking do that? That's ridiculous.
So
he could have killed somebody. Like he could have shot somebody in the head in 2015.
So I actually covered this on I did a short talking about this yesterday. This is all legal, like scholars, legal experts are like, this is unprecedented. The only time anything even similar to this has ever been done was when Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon after Nixon stepped down, after Nixon resigned. Like, and we can go for hours about why did Nixon resign and what all was why did Ford give Nixon the blanket pardon for everything that had happened over the course of the last 5 years, and all. Like we could go down some rabbit holes with that, but like this is pretty cut and dry. What, Johnny, why is 2014 important? What happened in 2014?
I think somebody might have been assigned to the board at Burisma
in like April of 2014. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Isn't that funny how it's a very specific, it's 11 years. It's not 10 years. It's not 15 or 20. It's not a round number. It's 11. which is my lucky number. So if I ever get pardoned, I want 11 years. But he's been sober for 5.5. So why isn't it just 5.5 years? Because apparently these were all just like drug induced. He was under addiction. So, cut him a break. Which, by the way, Joe Biden has a history of cutting people breaks for drug offenses and being addicted, right? He's been very soft on drug crimes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that nobody's ever been charged with tax evasion and gun charges and things like that. Of course, he would pardon all those people. It's so fucking ridiculous, dude. But the fact that it's just blanket, any crime that he may have been involved in, that's like how much fucking pedophilia went on in the last 10 years with Hunter Biden.
Well, and the crazy thing is 2014 goes on the Burisma board. Later on in 2014 was when all of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine really got started. And a lot of that happened at the advisement of the Obama administration via Joe Biden. So everything that has happened over the last 2.5, 3 years with the whole Russia-Ukraine thing, that all got kicked off starting in 2008 and then really ramping up in 2014 because of Joe Biden, Hunter, and all. Who else? Nancy Pelosi and I want to say Adam Schiff also had like either nephews or grandchildren that were on similar boards of other Ukrainian energy companies and other steel companies and stuff like that. And I know we've talked about it before. NATO would never allow Ukraine to join prior to the whole Russia conflict, expressly because Ukraine was literally the most corrupt country in all of fucking Europe. NATO exclusively kept Ukraine out because of the corruption, but nobody cared about that as soon as the whole Russia thing kicked off. Nobody thought hey, maybe we should look at what escalated this to this point that it became a literal hot war. And Joe Biden via Hunter had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I was just trying to pull up the timeline of that Burisma, as I saw it in an article that I was reading. Man, there's a lot of fucking. Okay, here is this it? Yeah. Okay, I think this is it here. Okay, so 2013 to 2014, the United States orchestrated the violent coup that toppled Ukraine's democratically elected government, which led to the ousting of Yanukovych. April 16th, 2014, Vice President Biden meets with Devon Archer at the White House. April 21st, 2014, Biden visits Ukraine and becomes U.S. policy face. April 22nd, 2014, Archer joins the Burisma board. April 28th, 2014, British officials seized $23 million from Burisma's owner. May 12th, 2014, Hunter Biden joins Burisma board, and both were paid millions. A 2019 investigation revealed that the Obama administration knew Hunter Biden's position on Burisma's board was problematic and interfered with U.S. policy in Ukraine. The investigation uncovered approved transactions involved the Obama administration, which allowed a Chinese government-owned company and an investment firm with Chinese ties to acquire a U.S. military technology firm linked to Hunter Biden. I mean, dude, it's just the idea that Hunter Biden would be on the board of anything is just, it's so ridiculous, dude. He's a fucking crackhead. He's a crackhead, ladies and gentlemen.
Well,
he's a crackhead pedophile.
And as other people have pointed out, by pardoning him for everything, now it takes off the table any chance of trying to get a backroom deal or a plea deal of any sort where that they can get him to talk about the big guy and actually incriminate Joe Biden in order to keep himself off the chopping block. This is Joe or at least Joe Biden's handlers, whoever actually wrote this thing. I don't know that I believe he actually did it, but there are people who realized if they can go after Hunter, and Hunter's a fucking crackhead, so he's liable to turn and squeal on anybody and everybody if he thinks it'll keep him from ending up getting his ass raped in prison. There is a lot of stuff that happened during that time that he could incriminate Joe and other people higher up members of the government for the shit that went on in Ukraine. So backdate it to fucking January of 2014 and clear and wipe the docket clean. Yep. And then they can't hold anything over his head to get him to snitch on all of the big name players who have been involved in creating a literal hot war in fucking Ukraine.
Yeah, that's a very good point. This was much more than just a pardon of Hunter Biden, which a lot of people don't seem to understand. Oh God, this narrative was like, oh, well, he did what any loving, caring father would do for his son. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit, dude. This is so much bigger than that. If anybody can't see that, I don't know what to tell you, man. You've really lost the plot on this one. This is a level of corruption being exposed that
if Joe Biden was such a loving father, if Joe Biden was such a loving father, he wouldn't have sent his good son off to get killed in Iraq.
Yeah. I mean, oh my God, dude. I haven't, have you followed any of the corporate press coverage of this since the pardon came down?
I don't know if Jon Stewart counts as corporate press, but he did have a maybe surprising take on it. I have seen some others that there was a former CNBC host that he was pissed off at the Democrats who came out in open opposition of Joe Biden doing this because this is why the Republicans always win, because they'll do whatever is necessary and the Democrats won't. Like, dude, could you be more fucking brain dead? So anyway, here's Jon Stewart and his take on the whole thing.
Even Jon Stewart has to have the correct take on this. He can't let it go. Dude, they were out there. Play the clip that I sent you. We don't have to play the whole thing because it's 9 minutes of the corporate press just fawning over Joe Biden and Democrats for their moral high ground, the rule of law, blah, bitty fucking blah.
Presidential promise to put the law before family.
I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
Letting the world know that he will not wipe away the decision of 12 of his son's peers. Was asked directly, and he has said he wouldn't pardon his son if he gets convicted.
Let's wait and see what happens if he loses.
Yeah, but he said it.
He's going to get pardoned by his dad. There's no question about that.
The president has ruled out pardoning his son.
Major commitment from the president, accepting the outcome of the trial and also pledging not to pardon his son.
So the challenge for him is really to continue to live up to his values when it was really personal, and he did that today.
It seems like a pretty normal, straightforward answer, but it takes new weight when we see what Trump is saying about the outcome of his trial, what we're hearing from other Republicans who say they don't accept the jury's verdict here in New York.
The contrast is profound. To sit there and say, well, I'm not going to intervene in the legal process, and I wouldn't pardon my son. One side, Democrats and Joe Biden protecting the justice system. And on the other, Republicans and Trump protecting Trump.
Our current president of the United States has so much respect for the law that he has said he would not pardon his son. I mean, again, it's all about the contrast.
President Biden saying, I will respect whatever this jury decides, versus Donald Trump after he was convicted on 34 counts, saying the entire system is rigged against him.
Dude, so that was a minute and a half. It goes on for another fucking 7.5 minutes of that, all of them saying the exact same thing. On the one hand, you have Donald Trump saying the justice system is rigged against him. And then you have Joe Biden, who believes so strongly in our judicial system and the rule of law that he's taking a stand. And what moral character he had. He didn't do anything. He just said he wasn't going to do it. How many times this guy to fucking lie? He also said he wasn't going to fucking step down from the presidential race. How many other fucking lies has he told? I mean, this is ridiculous, dude. They're anointing him like he's a fucking saint, and he was just completely full of shit. He didn't do anything.
I mean, at least was that Chris Wallace that got it right. He was like, let's see what happens if he loses.
Of course. It's easy to say I'm not going to do anything when there's no consequence for it. Unbelievable, man. It's dude, there. And by the way, who would fucking believe? Did anybody believe he wasn't going to pardon it? They're like, this is so remarkable. He's not going to pardon his own son. Of course he is. I didn't think he would have the balls to do a blanket. Anything he's done over the last 11 years, I'm going to pardon him for. And then into the future, because this came down like a few days ago. I guess he had like at least one day to do whatever the fuck he wanted in Washington, D.C. Who knows how many hookers he killed? The 29th to December 1st or whatever this pardon was. But it's like, dude, I didn't know you could get future crimes. Anything that he's done. Anything. And they're just like, oh, well, Donald Trump pardoned his father-in-law. I don't even know what the pardon was for on that. Okay, that's not his son, first of all. Second of all, it wasn't a blanket fucking pardon for anything he's done over the last 11 years, which we know from the laptop, potentially some pretty horrific shit. Hanging out with like fucking 13-year-old girls. God damn it, dude.
Politico even talked about this pardon in an article where it said, like, even with Trump, when Trump gave pardons to people, he pardoned them for the specific things that they had been charged with. And
that's usually how pardons work.
I don't know that he pardoned anyone that had been convicted. He pardoned people who had been charged and it hadn't gone anywhere. I gotta look into that a little bit more closely. But all of Trump's pardons specifically called out the charges that the things that they had been charged with. There were no blanket like for everything you've ever done under my term or anything like that. Like,
yeah, well, that's what's so funny about Biden's written statement. He's like, they're only going after him for these crimes because he's my son. Nobody would be charged for filling out the paperwork for a gun he didn't do anything else. He didn't buy subsequent guns or something like that. And nobody would, when a drug addict forgets to pay his taxes but pays them back, like they usually just get a non-prison penalty. Okay. But then you pardoned him for 11 years of shit. So what's that about? You mentioned the two charges specifically, but then you went back 11 years and pardoned him for anything he may have been involved in. Anything.
Okay. Here's the pardon for Trump's daughter's father-in-law. He pardoned Charles Kushner, Jared Kushner's dad, who had been convicted of in 2005. He was convicted of preparing false tax returns and falsifying statements to the Federal Election Commission. He served 16 months of a 2-year sentence and was released in 2006. And then Trump pardoned him for that in 2020. So this was already time served. Like this was all like water under the bridge. And Trump basically like pardoned him for that after it was already like said.
Yeah, what is that? It just gets it off your record or something?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh my God, Donald. That's the same, Justin.
Yeah.
I can't see any difference between those two pardons. So we should just sit this one out, right? We can't comment on this. You especially not because you voted for a convicted felon, 34-time convicted felon. Me, I can't. I have to sit this one out because that's Donald Trump has pardoned people too. So I guess we'll just end the podcast there. These people are fucking clowns, dude. Absolute clowns. There was this whole article. This is on MSN.com. The extraordinary breadth of Hunter Biden's pardon. And I haven't had time. I just came across this right before we started, so I haven't read the whole thing. It does mention the Gerald Ford Nixon pardon that you were talking about was the closest thing that's ever come close to a pardon like this. And yeah, it was that 5-year period or something. January 20th, 1969 to August 9th, 1974. Anything he has committed or may have committed. Yeah. So it's like that, except twice as long.
And also there's a lot more potentially seedy stuff involved with it. Like Nixon was not suspected of having done anything outside of the Watergate stuff. And honestly, the Watergate stuff, if you really want to dig into it, was not that big a deal. Like, it was not something that that would warrant resigning. Like, it was, a lot of it should have been like a slap on the wrist type of a thing. Like, there were some things that Nixon shouldn't have done with the way it was handled, but all in all, it was not something that should have cost him his entire political career, and yet it did. And it's interesting to note that none of that really started to come up until Nixon stopped being real pro-war. Crazy, right? And me and a buddy did a whole episode on Nixon and Agnew and the whole thing. It's on YouTube. I highly recommend going and checking it out, because there's a lot of depth to what led up to Nixon, and basically it's a lot cleaner than starting a war between Russia and Ukraine over the course of 8 years.
Thousands of people have died. Billions of dollars have changed hands. Like, this could literally bring down an entire fucking government. and so they pardon the guy for everything that's been done. And it just happens to cover a lot of other just egregious things that there's photographic evidence that would strongly suggest this guy was up to some pretty disgusting, despicable things that some might say deserves a wood chipper. And that's all just covered now. Everything's just covered. It's wild. And I'm sure today, on MSNBC and CNN, they're all out there being like, man, Joe Biden, his legacy is ruined. He doesn't believe in the judicial system anymore. He's abandoned it. He's this conspiracy theorist. He doesn't believe in the rule of law.
He doesn't even know the rule of law. Motherfucker finished last in his law class.
Well, apparently this is legal. So this is still like within the rule of law. The president can pardon people. And apparently you can just make it a blanket pardon. Why not just do it for his entire life?
The same person that wrote the 40-something executive orders that he signed on day one of his presidency wrote this pardon. They got a legal team handling all of that.
Let's go back to 2013. Find something Hunter Biden did. Just get him for it.
So that's the interesting thing, is a lot of the Ukraine stuff has been going on since 2008. So if they really, really wanted to try, and I mean, Biden has been involved. He's been in the government for 40 fucking years and has been directly involved in a lot of the stuff that's been going on with Democrats' dealings overseas in Europe since the mid to late 90s, whenever he first started like trying to run for president and stuff like that. So I would be willing to bet there's some stuff from 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12 that would be incriminating, but that there's not going to be any political will to do that. Like this was like, this served not only to put an end to the current stuff and to prevent anything from coming of Biden or other high-ranking Democrats' involvement in what is going on in Ukraine now. It also it also dissuades from digging into anything further back and trying, because like, what's the point? Then it really looks like you're grasping at straws, even though it's like, it's not. Like, the American people deserve to know just the extent of criminality that our leaders are willing to carry out for their own checkbook, honestly.
Well, yeah, that all those people that were saying no one is above the law. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi, not above the law at all. Okay. Believe that when I fucking see it. Yeah, they're getting away with murder, literally. They're getting away with everything. And dude, despite the the cartoonish version that they're painting, like, well, Donald Trump was going to go after him and his family. Donald Trump was not going to go after an 82-year-old senile fucking Joe Biden. He's not, like, he's got more important things to do. Joe Biden has, I don't know, how much more time you think he has left? It ain't much. It ain't much. A couple years, if that.
Hang on. We were taking bets on this not too long ago. If anybody wants to get in on that. How long does Joe Biden survive after he leaves the presidency? I think I had it at 18 months. I'm trying to remember. You and Stephanie had it at like 6 months. Oh no, Stephanie put it at 41 months. That's crazy.
It's a long time. He's going to be a fucking
no, that's not months. That's days. Okay. How many days? So Jim said 69 days whenever we were taking bets on it initially. Jason of Two Bit Podcast said 60 days, so he gave him 2 months. I put it at 540 days, whatever that equates to. I think it was 18 months. Stephanie said 41 days. You never did give us an answer.
I don't remember this. Was I involved in that?
You were drinking a lot of wine, so.
Oh, yeah. Been known to do that. It checks out. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'd give him 2 years, but like, he's going to, if he lasts any longer than that, he's going to be a fucking vegetable. So what are you going to like wheel him out into a fucking court? Like, that's just never going to happen. And nobody gives a shit about Hunter Biden after he's out of office. Like, this battle's over. He's gone. The Democrats kicked him out of office.
Right. The only people that actually care about trying to go after their political opponents after their political opponent has literally left office are the Democrats who kept going after Trump. Honestly, I sincerely believe if the Democrats would have just let Trump leave office and not keep pushing all the bullshit, that he just like retires to Mar-a-Lago and fucks off and doesn't do anything else. Like, he stays out of it and he doesn't come back and run again. Like, I sincerely think that he was as quiet as he got from November when the election was called until January, outside of like the legal cases and stuff like that. Like, Trump wasn't super active. And then especially from January 6th to Inauguration Day, he disappeared entirely. Like, if they would have just left it alone and let Joe Biden take office and then not continued to wage lawfare against Donald Trump for the next 4 years, I think he probably would have just fucked off to Mar-a-Lago and been like, yeah, I'm out. Like, it was a wild ride and I'm done. But they had to keep pushing it. And Trump is not the type to let shit go. So it's like, if you're going to push, I'm going to push back. And if you want to take swings at me, I'm going to swing back and I'm going to knock you the fuck out. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, there's a decent chance of that. I think he was probably still really salty about losing the election. But like, dude, you go after his fucking business. He's like $454 million fines and shit like that. It's like, yo, he has to fight back at that point. You left him no choice. So yeah, the whole thing's fucking insane, man. It's just, man, I love how Donald Trump gets them to expose themselves. It's crazy. What does he say after seeing Jimmy Carter? He'll make at least 5 years. Yeah, dude, Jimmy Carter is wow. Yeah, I could see Joe Biden in a similar situation, just wheeling him around. He has no idea what's going on.
They're gonna wheel Joe Biden out in a hospice bed 4 years from now, so they can be like, yeah, he's voting for Kamala again.
Yeah.
Like, and then we can all be like, yeah, bullshit. He didn't vote for Kamala the first time. He voted for Trump.
Yep.
We already know.
Yeah. And then he just like fucked off to Africa or something. What's he doing in Africa?
He's been to Africa a couple times over the last couple months. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay. I just can't imagine what we need to be doing in Africa.
I suspect at his age, the cold weather is not real good for him. So, okay, it was the Amazon, and now he's in Africa. But yeah, I suspect like the cold weather is not real good for him, and it has been getting colder here, this part of the country over the last couple months. So and that's the time frame where he's been in the Amazon and now in Africa. So I think they're just like bringing him back long enough to do events and stuff. Like he had to be here for Thanksgiving for the pardoning of the turkeys and all the all the bullshit of that. And then they decorated the White House, and then after that, he can fuck off and go back on vacation. Speaking of vacation, I think there was a thing that Joe Biden spent more days on vacation in his presidency than any other president ever. No, never mind that either. Like, yeah, he was totally competent and like up to the job. That's why he spent more time on vacation than any other president in the history of presidency.
Yeah, it is, dude. It's also, I know we talked about this before when they started to ramp shit up in with Ukraine and Russia and the missiles and everything, but it's just like, it's so fucking ridiculous that he just has like a couple of months to do whatever the fuck he wants. Like, he should have had to pardon this guy before the election, in my humble opinion. After the election, like, you shouldn't be able to do anything. Like, that's when you just, okay, yeah, now you're just on vacation. I don't know. Something has to be done where, like, you just get a couple of months to do whatever the fuck you want. It seems like a very bad system to me.
Right. And like, so we've got the U.S. military, basically, like Biden's military, encouraging Ukraine to drop the age of conscription from 25 to 18 to bolster their numbers. You've got Biden giving Ukraine authorization to fire ballistic missiles into Russia. You've got more aid being sent to Ukraine almost daily. Like, they're doing everything they fucking can to ramp up World War III before they leave, before like he leaves office. Like, yeah, the federal government should be on recess from election day until inauguration day. Like, they shouldn't be able to do fucking anything, because all they're doing is actively setting up the worst possible scenario for everyone to like. It's
yeah. Well, Blinken just announced they're giving Ukraine another $753 million worth of weapons. It's a how can he even fucking do like this? Is just so insane, dude. They're completely out of control. They're all like, it's like watching. They're all basically Hunter Biden with crack. Like, they just cannot stop.
And they keep confirming new judges, like just putting liberal judges in all over the place. Like just blanket confirmations of the most liberal, psychotic judges all over the place, as fast as they can get them confirmed. Like, talk about a miscarriage of justice, like a fucked up justice system. They're putting all of these incredibly progressive liberal judges in place so that they can go after Republicans and conservatives in all of these districts. Like,
yeah, dude, yeah, and there's way too much to even keep track of it all. They get away with fucking so many things, because how can you possibly track all of this? And it's just in a 2-month period. It's just like an avalanche of stuff, and I'm sure this fucking Hunter Biden pardon thing, who knows what this is covering up. While everybody's focused on this, who knows what else they're fucking getting away with. Goddamn criminals in DC, man. Jesus. Unbelievable. They need to, God, yeah, just get rid of all of it.
Well, like, what's really crazy about all of this is Trump has been in talks with Zelensky, and supposedly, like, so Zelensky has said that he's willing to come to the table with Trump to talk about peace talks and ceasefires and Russia. Putin has said he's willing to come to the table for peace talks between Ukraine and Russia. You've got Netanyahu has talked about peace talks with the Israel conflict. Like, all of these parties are coming to the table saying, like, we're ready to talk peace. We're ready to, like, put an end to all this shit. Once Trump gets in, like, we'll meet with Trump and we'll take care of all of this. While the Democrats are actively trying to ramp up more.
Well, yeah, simultaneously giving Joe Biden credit for the Hezbollah ceasefire and shit like that. Like, look, he got this ceasefire. Like, yeah, no, you think it's a coincidence? that they're like it happened right after Donald Trump won the election?
Did you see where where Trump said, like, unless Mexico does something about the mass waves of illegal immigrants coming through Mexico to the southern border, unless Mexico does something about that, they're going to impose all these tariffs and just like shut down the Mexican economy. And the new Mexican president said, yes, we can absolutely do that. Like, we'll do what we need to do. And then 2 days later, she backpedaled and said, no, we're not going to do that. The cartels got to her ass. They're like, hey, you remember those 9 other candidates that got killed before you got elected?
70 something. It was 70 something. It's an unbelievable number.
The insane number of people that we killed because they weren't going to be on board with what we want to do. Maybe you should reconsider. And so she reconsidered and was like, never mind, we're not going to do that. But and then here just this past week, Justin Trudeau came down from Canada and met with Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and that got us some entertaining little snippets.
And tonight we're getting some new details about that Trump-Trudeau dinner from 2 people who were at the table. We are told that when Trudeau told President-elect Trump that new tariffs would kill the Canadian economy, Trump joked to him that if Canada can't survive without ripping off the U.S. to the tune of $100 billion a year, then maybe Canada should become the 51st state and Trudeau could become its governor. Right.
But more on that detail with the panel. Peter, thank you.
Ducey's got a beautiful head of hair going there. I mean, I completely disagree with I think Donald Trump's way off on these. We're getting ripped off by the rest of the world because they're giving us all these goods, and we're just giving them worth increasingly more and more pieces of paper that are increasingly worthless. But yeah, it would take, it's going to take a lot of retooling, so to speak, from these countries' perspective. Like if they put 100% tariff on something, it's like, okay, I mean, they can consume the goods themselves, or they can sell them to other countries for maybe a little less money or something like that. You do have to rejigger some things from that perspective. And then from the US, we would have to start producing all of these things. I was listening to Peter Schiff did a podcast the other day, it might have been Sunday, where he was just going through the percentages of goods that we import. And dude, it's astonishing. It was like, just like look around the room that you're in right now and just pick something out. Whatever that industry is, it's at least, we import at least 80% of it. Sometimes 90%, 100% of the coffee in the US is imported. 100%. I was like, we don't grow one fucking coffee bean in the entire fucking country. And it's like, it's crazy. So like, if you do impose taxes on, and 80% of the supply of something is essentially gone, that's going to drive up the prices. And it's like, yeah, maybe the US could produce some of these things, but we have to retool in order to do it. But yeah, I don't think he's really serious about these tariffs, especially the ones that are just like 100% tariff or something like that. I think that's a game of chicken, and he's just trying to do that to use it as leverage. I don't think he actually would. But that's the thing about Donald Trump, dude. Everybody thinks he's a loose cannon. You can't predict what he's going to do. So it's like, oh shit, maybe he's crazy enough to just do that. So yeah, it gets these guys to the negotiating table. I'm sure that's all part of, it's at least one chapter in his book, The Art of the Deal, which I have not read, but I'm sure that's in there.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, he has, just by proposing a lot of this stuff and talking about a lot of this stuff, he's already got people that have, like world leaders and stuff that are willing to start dealing and negotiating and talking about like how they're going to work with Trump to make this stuff happen so that they can avoid that. Speaking of things that we import, I thought this one was hilarious. Dear MAGA, imagine you go to a store to buy an avocado and it usually costs $4. But because of Donald Trump's tariffs on Mexico, the store has to pay the government a fee. So now the avocado costs $5. The store will pass that extra cost on to you. So you end up paying more. Tariffs make things you buy more expensive. Imagine thinking that MAGA people give a fuck about avocados.
Yeah. That's so great, dude. Yeah. Again, like if I didn't know better, I would think this was a parody account. Of all the fucking things to pick, you go for the avocados. And it's like, yeah, okay. That's what we're really concerned about. But like, dude, consumer electronics, just, tools, everything that you look around, you just take these things for fucking granted. We import like all of it. So yeah. And when you're negotiating with people, you start. This is what Donald Trump does. He starts with the most ridiculous, 100% tariff. And they're like, okay, that's crazy. That's crazy. And, they're at 0. I'm at 100. And you meet somewhere in between and you get a little more when you do it that way, because you started at such an outrageous position that you kind of shifted the Overton window. But yeah, like the amount that we import is it, like some of these numbers were just, I knew that we produced almost nothing in the US, but I couldn't believe that some of these numbers were that high. Yeah, 80% was like kind of on the low end for a lot of things. 90%, even like car parts and things like that. We don't even fucking make 60% of those here. It's it could put us in a precarious situation. And
did we talk about there was a list of like some of the biggest companies that were saying like these Trump tariffs would hit them the hardest and they would have to start increasing prices. Now, one of them was like AutoZone. I don't know if you've been to AutoZone lately. Like I almost exclusively get stuff from O'Reilly's. AutoZone is all Chinese made shit. Like, yeah, okay, it might be cheaper. You're also going to be replacing the same part in half the time that you would be. Like, stop buying garbage shit. That seems
right.
To be
we did talk about that. I think, I don't know, one of the previous episodes where we were talking about tariffs. It's like I'd like to see somebody kind of run the numbers on that, where it's like, okay, yeah, you buy these cheaper made goods abroad, but like you are replacing them constantly. I got a guy coming to look at the washing machine tomorrow. I just replaced the fucking bearings on this thing maybe 4 years ago, and it's broken again. So it's just like, yeah, I don't know, dude. Like, we'll see how much he wants to charge me to fix it, but you can get a new one for like $500. So it's like, if every 4 years I'm spending $200 to repair this, why wouldn't I just get a new one every time it fucking breaks? Because it lasted, I don't know, 12 years or something before it actually went belly up. But like, I don't remember. I remember having the exact same washing machine my entire fucking life, essentially, like growing up as a kid. I don't remember replacing the washing machine at all. So yeah, these cheap made goods that, you save a little up front, but on the back end, I don't know if it's any cheaper. But there's, they just, this is part of sort of like that. It is it's an interesting thing about capitalism, because they want to keep getting that recurring revenue coming in from people constantly buying new things, right? I was actually talking to my mom about this like a week ago or something. I forget how it came up, but she's like, yeah, when we used to get like way back in the day, when you would get a telephone, you rented it from AT&T, and like that phone never broke. It was like still good. And we had one in my base, like one of those rotary phones, like on the wall in my basement. It was probably from like 1905 or something. And this thing still worked in the year 2000. When you were renting the phone, almost like, when you get your cable, you get cable and you rent the cable box. AT&T supplied the phone. It worked forever. It was like indestructible. But then they changed their business model and they started selling you these phones, and we were replacing the phone like every 2 or 3 years. It would just break, and then you buy a new one. They could make things that last a lot longer. They choose not to. They choose to sell you something that's going to break in 3 to 5 years, so that you have to buy a new one, and that way they keep their sales up. So yeah, I was gonna try to pull up that clip where he breaks down the percentages of things that do we have time for that? Let me see.
We can get it on Friday, so we'll have, because I'm sure there will be more. We can talk more about the tariff stuff.
Yeah, I'll get it queued up for another episode, because he talks about it for a long time, but then he does like a recap in like 15 seconds. He just like rattles off all these things that we're fucking importing. And I mean, if I had my choice between paying an income tax to fund the government or tariffs, I'd much rather have tariffs. Unfortunately, we're in the situation we're in. We're going to get both. You know, it's income tax, tariffs, other excise taxes. Like we talked about, shithole Chicago with a 35% tax on alcohol. Yeah, things like that. They're, you know, if it moves, tax it. If it doesn't move, tax it twice, or whatever that saying is. And again, you're never going to get out of these holes that we're in by taxing. You have to cut this government that's spending $7 trillion a year, and over $1 trillion of that is now just interest on the national debt, which is going to keep going. Dude, it's going to be like $2 trillion, I think, a year in like a few years. Probably by the end of Donald Trump's presidency, I bet you the interest on the national debt will be $2 trillion a year, which is crazy. Like, it's fucking insane. But you know, okay, we'll tinker around the edges here. I mean, even if the Doge thing materializes and they get everything that they envision, every cut that they could possibly imagine, of the things that are actually on the table to cut, it doesn't make a dent, dude. If you don't touch Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the military spending, it doesn't matter what you do.
Did you see where Vivek said that their goal for Doge is for the department to be eliminated?
Yeah,
to the department itself to be eliminated by July 4th, 2026.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna the last thing Doge eliminates is itself, deletes is itself. Yeah, I did see that. I mean, there's just nothing real. Like, realistically, it sounds good to have like, and they've had these like commissions in the past that like recommend cuts to government. None of them ever materialize, because ultimately it's up to Congress to fucking cut this shit out, and there's no political will to do it. And they have all these lobbyists giving them a bunch of money to not cut anything. So unfortunately, I don't think the vast majority of it isn't going to materialize. And they've already like taken certain things. You know, they keep saying Donald Trump's going to cut Social Security. No, he's not. He's not going to cut Social Security. He's not going to cut military spending. He's not going to cut Medicare. He's not going to cut Medicaid. He's not going to go after any of that stuff. And those are the biggest drivers of the national debt. So if you strip all that out and that's all off the table, there's not much else that you can, even if you get 100% of your other cuts, that's not even $2 trillion a year. So they're claiming they're going to cut $2 trillion. It'll probably be over like a 20-year period where we're going to spend $40 trillion.
So even if they cut $2 trillion, federal government takes in $4 trillion in tax revenue every year and spends something to the tune of like 6.8. So we cut $2 trillion and now we're only overspending by
500 million or something. 500 billion. Yeah,
right, 500 billion. That's
still a pretty big deficit there. But hey, definitely a step in the right direction. It would just be amazing if they're like, yeah, we're going to go back to like 2008 spending levels, which were ridiculously high. But that was when they would have. Remember the bailout was like 900 billion or something. It was like this is amazing.
Yeah.
We've never seen spending like this, and now it's like twice that in any fucking legislation.
Right, 900 billion is like the baseline for any spending
You
bill.
mean
It's
it's
like,
under 1.5 trillion? Put some more pages in that bill.
hey, we got to hit at least 920 billion just so they know we're serious about spending money.
Yeah. Otherwise, they're going to say we're not strong enough on whatever this bullshit bill is, infrastructure and climate change. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, like Magoo's saying, that's nobody realistically thinks these tariffs are like a good make economic sense. It's a bargaining chip that he's trying to use. But yeah, if I was Canada or something, I would call his bluff personally. But anyway, I guess that'll probably do it for today's episode. We got anything else?
Not that I can think of. I mean, there's supposed to be like a UFO invasion today, but it hadn't happened yet. And I mean, I live out in BFE. This is the place where the UFOs would be coming, and they're definitely not. I think they showed up and saw the snow on the ground, and they're like, nah, fuck that. We'll come back in the spring when it's warm.
Yeah. You don't want to repeat Hitler's mistake, invading in the winter.
Damn.
All right.
I think we got a wrap on that.
Yeah. Thank you all so very much for listening. Make sure you download and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share the show with people. Let's get some of these numbers up so that we can have a bigger influence in the American, I don't know, electorate, psyche. Help. I mean, I think our track record is pretty good on this show. I don't think either of us thought that Joe Biden wasn't going to pardon Hunter Biden. I think that was pretty fucking obvious to anybody with a brain. Anybody who's being honest, like unlike the corporate press, who spent 9 minutes telling you across the country how he was such a good person and he was nobody was above the law. Well, there you go. That whole thing completely unraveled, blew up in their face once again. That might be the final blow for the corporate press, and we're happy to take their place here. So yeah, share the show with somebody that you think might like to hear it. And until Friday, you guys know what to do. Just keep on peddling that so-called fiction. Peace.